Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan were ousted from the original Man of Steel sequel. I can exclusively tell you today. Now, what's very, very interesting about Man of Steel is how Henry Cavill speaks about it in glowing terms. Now, I want to be absolutely clear with everyone here. This is not a Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice hate piece. I love that movie. I think it's amazing, especially the extended edition, the Ultimate Edition. But we have to talk in facts here. Fact one, even though Man of Steel made solid money, it wasn't the money that Warner Brothers Pictures wanted. They wanted this film to make $1 billion plus, right? It didn't. It was controversial. It upset people. It upset Superman purists. There is no denying that. We can't rewrite history. I love Man of Steel. I think it's a great film. And I'll watch it again and again and again. Now, when you look at the credits, the writing credits for Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, you'll see is it screenplay written by Chris Terrio and David Goyer. Now, this is how I believe this worked. I believe David Goyer wrote the original draft for the screenplay for a Man of Steel sequel and not BVS. And I think when Chris Terrio came in, he rewrote it for Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. It's pretty clear to me that Ben Affleck insisted in bringing his own writer in if he was going to agree to be Batman and Bruce Wayne. And of course, we know that Terrio and Affleck had worked together before. In fact, you know, he's an Oscar winner-nominated screenwriter. Terrio's a very talented man. Unfortunately, with what happened with The Rise of Skywalker, you wouldn't think so, but that wasn't his film. That wasn't his screenplay. That film was rewritten. It's not even J.J. Abrams' film, the theatrical version of that. So there's that. So I like Terrio, but the original plan for a Man of Steel sequel was very different. And I believe that Christopher Nolan and David Goyer, in fact, I know this, were ousted from a Man of Steel sequel and having anything to do creatively with Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice because of the controversy of the film. Now, what did Zack Snyder have to do with Man of Steel? The visual, the way you saw the film. That's as far as Zack Snyder's vision went for that movie. He may have had a few story points he could put in there, but I genuinely believe this was, Christopher Nolan's and David Goyer's baby. And, we know the story that Chris has already told us, that David Goyer had writer's block while doing The Dark Knight Rises, and that's understandable after seeing the finished article of that film. And he all of a sudden had a vision, an idea for a Superman movie. So Chris went to the studio, and the studio said, well, look what you're doing for us, of course. And so basically, Batman vs. Superman was originally supposed to be an official green-lit Man of Steel sequel. But once WB saw how controversial it was and the reaction to it from the consumer and the public, especially the mainstream public, they said, right. So they ousted Christopher Nolan and David Goyer, which is insane. And so instead of getting a Man of Steel sequel, now I never believed we were going to get a Man of Steel sequel straight away. I believe originally maybe Ben Affleck was going to get his own original take on Batman. That still could have been like an older Batman. I suppose it would have to be with Ben's age and everything, right? But Ben isn't that old. But anyway, right? Let's look at this. So it would be very interesting to know, and we'll never know this, of course, how different the public would have perceived a Man of Steel sequel, still driven creatively by Christopher Nolan and David Goyer. And I think that was the original plan. Now, part of me is happy how it all played out because I love BVS, but another part of me feels that maybe, just maybe, a Batman origin movie within the DCEU. Don't forget, this is another thing that that everyone forgets. They were thinking about a post-credit scene where Batman steals the kryptonite in Man of Steel, an after-credit scene for Man of Steel, which would have been great, and they should have done it. I don't care who come up with the post-credit scene idea originally. It wasn't the MCU. It's been done fleetingly before. It was done in the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, if you remember. So I don't care about anything else. I just care that people should know the truth. And the truth is Batman versus Superman wasn't the original idea. We were going to get a Batman origin movie, then a Man of Steel sequel. The original plan was, in fact, to go with 5 or 6 origin movies of different characters, of Batman, Wonder Woman. Suicide Squad's interesting if they were always going to do a Suicide Squad movie, but there was a mixture of ideas. You've got Jeff Johns, you've got Zack Snyder, you've got different producers. You know, too many cooks spoil the broth, and this is what really went wrong. I don't think you can put the blame of the ousting of Zack Snyder in the middle, you know, of the completion of the shooting of Justice League just to Jeff Johns. You can't just put it on one man's door. I think everyone was to blame, to be honest. Too many views, too many opinions, too many visions. You need one person to have the vision. Or in terms of Christopher Nolan and David Goyer, 2 visions, right? So with Man of Steel, Nolan and Goyer had the story. They put the story together. Then David Goyer wrote the screenplay, wrote the screen story. So that's how it worked out, right? And I think that was the original plan for a Man of Steel sequel. So they were ousted. And, you know, I just feel that this is when things went wrong for them, when they changed the original plans. Because I feel that Zack Snyder's a good man. I believe that Zack Snyder's a visionary director, and I love him. And as I say, I love BVS. But I think in terms of the original plan, you do not oust a genius like Christopher Nolan and Chris Terrio and bring other people in. Because, yes, Batman vs. Superman is a Man of Steel sequel. But the idea from the original sequel idea from Nolan and Goyer is extremely different. Already, you can see with BVS that they dumped the Codex idea. Now, I don't know if the Codex idea comes back in. I know in Justice League they did use the Codex. Did they use the Codex? I can't even remember now, right? But, right, basically the whole Codex story was David Goyer's, not Chris Terrier's, right? Chris Terrio wasn't involved with Man of Steel. The whole genius idea of having Kryptonians for all these thousands of years being cloned rather than being born naturally, and for Clark Kal to be the first naturally born Kryptonian, that's all down to Goyer, and it was a genius idea. It was his idea, not Zack Snyder's, not Chris Terrio's, nobody else, but David Goyer. David Goyer is a genius, right? And he wrote a great screenplay. But the Codex was dumped in it was never mentioned that Kal has got all the DNA of thousands or millions of Kryptonians inside of his body, right? And what happens when, these Kryptonian cells are unearthed? That would have been a very interesting story for Man of Steel 2. And I think that was the original plan. But WB blamed Nolan and Goyer for how they saw the failure of Man of Steel. I don't see over 600 million as a failure, but they wanted over 1 billion. They wanted to compete with Disney. There's no question about this. And it is a controversial movie, Man of Steel. But isn't it interesting and ironic that they ousted Nolan and Goyer because Man of Steel was controversial, but then bringing in Terrio and Snyder working together with the Batman vs. Superman vision was 20 billion times more controversial, even though I love the movie, than MOS. And ultimately, if they stuck with Zack as the director and Goyer and Nolan as the storytellers driving this thing, right? And, I still believe if Nolan played more of a creative part with the sequel to Man of Steel and the rest of the DCEU, we wouldn't have had the problems that we had. Now, again, and you have to do it with this community, I know. I love Man of Steel and I love Batman vs. Superman. I'm just saying ousting Christopher Nolan and David Goyer isn't a good idea. And the consequences to that decision are where we are now, where we've had a campaign. They got rid of Snyder's vision for Justice League. And, we've got Ray Fisher now, trying to create an investigation for against Jeff Johns. And these things, I truly believe, wouldn't have happened if Nolan and Goyer had remained. And I believe that Justice League would never have even have happened till 7 or 8 movies down the road, because I don't think that was the original plan, to rush and do a Justice League. I don't even think it was an original plan to do a Batman versus Superman movie. I think a Batman origin and down the road a Man of Steel sequel, but they were going to unleash Wonder Woman on us as well, and a Suicide Squad movie, right? And maybe even a Green Lantern movie, right? So this all goes down to decision making. And it is amazing to me that people who have worked in the industry for 20 or 30 years don't know how to create a franchise. And you look at someone like Feige, who really, although he's a good executive and he's a good storyteller, he's a good showrunner, basically. Most of his history before he worked on X-Men and Raimi's Spider-Man and all of that, really, he was mostly a comic book man. He was always a Marvel man. So it's just very interesting, all these people that WB had to their disposal, and they couldn't create a cohesive franchise. I'm not saying that Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman are not cohesive. I'm saying getting rid of Nolan and Goyer means that the children in the playground are running riot, and there's not a structure in place behind the scenes. So what happens then? All hell breaks loose when the public's reaction and the critics and the pundits' reaction to BVS is all over the place. And then they have to, because what they did is they cut Snyder's original BVS movie down because everything had got out of control. And that's my point. If Nolan and Goyer are there, these things don't get out of control. No one's cutting Snyder's vision. And that was the problem. And this goes back to all because Man of Steel didn't make $1 billion at the global box office. That's all it goes down to. And then we talk about people betraying people. I don't remember anyone, shouting from the rooftops. I don't remember, people battling on Twitter for Christopher Nolan and David Goyer to return to do a sequel. No, everyone just went, oh, well, they're not involved anymore. And that was it. So it makes me laugh how people are kind of all faithful and loyal when it suits them. But these guys were ousted, and that was wrong. And I can assure you, if Nolan and Goyer remain and were still there, Zack would never have been removed in the first place. We wouldn't be where we are now. But maybe this is going to work out for the best, because now we have this multiverse strategy, a strategy that's going to please everyone. So what do you think, everyone? Do you wish that Goyer and Nolan remained in place and their vision remained in place? Because that's another thing we're always going on about, creative, artistic visions not being messed around with. That's exactly what they did to Nolan and Goyer. So very interesting. Comments down below. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DC Multiverse Daily. See you again soon.